No, the Cape is ours.
Yeah, it's our yard, and if you don't like it, leave.
Hello internet, welcome back to the channel. So today I want us to have a discourse on an issue that has lately rattled South Africans, from the ordinary citizens to the political class, and they are having none of it. So let's begin it like this. We're first going direct into the reaction of South Africans, and then we will come back, analyze this, and see what this entails. So let's go straight into their reactions.
A British man by the name of Phil Craig launched a political party called the Referendum Party, right? Now, why am I saying a British man? Because he is British with a British accent. He does, however, have South African citizenship, right? Because you can only register a political party if you have citizenship. Now, in South Africa, like a lot of other countries, you can acquire citizenship in two ways. It's either one, you've been in the country for a specific period of time, or two, you have enough money to invest in the country and start businesses, and then you can acquire citizenship that way. So I don't know how this British man acquired citizenship, so it could be either or. That's one. So the Referendum Party is basically Cape independence. So a few years ago, the same gentleman, Phil Craig, had pushed the movement for Cape independence, which was for Cape Town or the Western Cape to become an independent country. So what that means is that I have family in Cape Town, right? And I have family in the Northwest. I have family in the Northern Cape, right? Right now, we are all South African citizens. If they are able to get this going and separate the Western Cape from South Africa, then my family in Cape Town will now have a different nationality, and it will require me to have a passport and apply for a visa in order for me to now go to Cape Town or visit any of my family members in the Western Cape, right? Because they want to have their own country in the Western Cape.
Hold up. So you are telling us that Phil Craig, the British man that leads the Cape Referendum Party, was born in South Africa, then he went to Britain, then he came back, and then he tried this little, circus that he's trying. Okay. Have you considered telling Phil Craig that he was born in South Africa? Because I think he might be confused. I have lived in South Africa for more than 20 years. I was not born here. I chose to become South African. I love this incredible country and its people, and I have never for one single day regretted the choice, he says passionately. So you better go and tell the man that he is highly confused. He was born here, and he must stop telling people he wasn't born here.
Guys, I just went to have a look at the petition for South Africa to deport Mr. Phil Craig. I'm calling him Mr. Yes, Mr. Phil Craig, and it's currently sitting on 19,000. So well done, guys. Cape Independence could never. They could never. Well done.
White guy called Phil Craig. Phil Craig, who is going to start a new party called the Referendum Party. Phil Craig says that he's been in South Africa for 20 years and he's forming a party because it is a time for revolution. This guy comes from wherever he comes from and comes and tries to break up our country. This Phil Craig guy. One of the things that must be enforced in our immigration, it is not to allow people to form political parties who have been here for a short while. They come and destroy what we have. Phil Craig says that being called racist and things like that. I wanna send this message to Phil Craig. Listen here, Phil Craig. There is no referendum that is gonna take place here. You are an immigrant. You might have been a citizen, and your citizenship must actually be questioned. How you became a citizen here. You, Phil Craig. We will not have a referendum here trying to split us up and make your own country out of Cape Town. Cape Town is part and parcel of South Africa.
These people who want Western Cape to become an independent state, they must know that it will not happen, because their right-wing coalition will not govern the Western Cape. Their right-wing coalition will not govern South Africa. We are going to govern South Africa, and Western Cape will not be an independent state. They must not try the government of the EFF, because we know what soldiers are used for. And when we are in charge of South Africa and anyone wants to take chances with the Western Cape, that person will meet the might of the state, because there's no one who's going to turn this province into a colony. This province is part of South Africa, and EFF in Saldanha Bay demonstrated that everything else that is done in South Africa shall be done in the Western Cape, because Western Cape and South Africa is one thing.
So clearly and obviously, people of South Africa are not having anything to do with this. They can't take this. And I tell you, from the reaction that we have seen in those few videos, I can tell you for sure that is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more reaction against this, and I can tell you that this idea, despite how much the proponent Phil Craig is going to try and attempt, is going to see nothing in terms of success. Now, this is the genesis of the whole of this issue. Let's get to hear from Phil Craig himself, and this is what he had to say.
This video is about why it's in the best interest of the Western Cape people to control their own borders. My name is Phil Craig, and I'm the leader of the Referendum Party. We are fighting for a referendum on Cape independence, which will place the Western Cape people in charge of their own destiny. As a party, we are strongly non-racial and believe that no one should be discriminated against based on the colour of their skin. Non-racialism is a founding principle of the South African Constitution, but sadly, in present-day South Africa, this is a farce. Our country is deeply racialised. Our national government is determined to implement race-based policy at every turn, and our society habitually tries to silence those who promote genuine non-racialism by calling them racist. I am a non-racialist, and long ago I made a decision that set me free. I decided that I couldn't care less if people wanted to call me racist. I'm not going to be bullied into silence by a mob who haven't worked out yet that they are the racists and not me. I will answer to God and to my conscience for my actions. But as for the mob, the louder they scream, the more I like it. It just means that my words have found their target. I say all of this because when I talk about the Western Cape's borders, a lot of people are going to get very upset. But it's time that we have this conversation. This is a conversation that's already taking place at dinner tables, braais, school functions, in bars, and at pretty much every other meeting place in the Western Cape. And it's now time for us to have this conversation in public. Even without the howls of racism, provincial migration is a difficult conversation because different groups of people have different legitimate rights, and sometimes those rights come into conflict with each other. The character of the Western Cape is changing, and it's changing illegally. The rights of the Western Cape people are literally being trampled on, and rather than preventing this abuse, the national government is all but encouraging it. Why? Because South Africa isn't a country which actually believes in non-racialism. So instead, it is a country which believes in African nationalism. The majority of South Africans believe that South Africa belongs to Africans, and by this, they mean black Africans. Other races are at best tolerated and at worst are subject to the relentless racial abuse which very few are willing to call out as the racism which it truly is. 371 years ago, Jan van Riebeeck and 90 others landed in Cape Town and established a settlement. Today, this act would be illegal, but in 1652 it was not. He acted within the laws of his time. Despite this, the many coloured and white descendants who can trace their lineage back 15 generations to these early settlers are still vilified, called land thieves, and told to go home. In contrast, over the last few years, nearly 1 million people have broken the law and illegally settled land in the Western Cape. They are quite literally land thieves, but nobody would dare to use this term. Helen Ziller is still regularly lambasted for having had the audacity to use the word refugees more than a decade ago. The truth is that ordinary Western Cape people are furious about this illegal encroachment on their historical territory, which has irreparably harmed their environment, robbed them of resources, increased crime levels, and in conjunction with government policy, greatly disadvantaged them in the workforce. 30% of the current Western Cape population was not born here. Those migrating to the province do so in the pursuit of a better life, and there is nothing wrong with this whatsoever. I'm certainly not going to judge anyone for wanting to move to the Western Cape. For the record, I am one of the 30%. Those who take responsibility for their own future should be applauded and not condemned. But they must do so legally. Illegal land invasions extract a huge toll from the communities they affect, and it simply is not fair on those who are already here legally. At the Referendum Party, we propose, subject to the will of the Western Cape people, that the Western Cape closes its border with South Africa and implements strict immigration protocols which are non-racial and in line with international norms. Regardless of their race, all people must be welcome to come to the Western Cape, but they must do so legally and in a manner which enhances the quality of life for existing Western Cape citizens, as opposed to causing them harm and distress. Our purpose at the Referendum Party is to create the conditions which will allow the Western Cape people to fulfil their potential, which will then result in the creation of a first world country at Africa's southern tip. This is only possible through Cape independence. If you'd like to find out more about the Referendum Party, then please visit our website at www.referendumparty.org or follow us on social media at @VoteReferendum. Thank you.
Well, so the boldness and the audacity with this guy is rather, but amusing. I know there's been the issue of Brexit in Europe and stuff, but this is somewhere else. That is something else. Subject for another discussion. Now, what Africa needs now, I think this is my honest opinion and analysis of this situation. First of all, what Africa needs the most right now is the spirit of Pan-Africanism must and will continue, to get the support it deserves and it's supposed to have, because Africa needs to be united. Africa had been forcefully divided and separated by nobody else but the Europeans. It's amusing, it's surprising to understand that it is very easy to traverse borders in Europe. It's easier to move across borders in Europe, far much easier for a European to move from one European country to another, by train, by whatever means, by road, or by, but that's not the case with Africa. And the most surprising part to this, for me, is the borders that we have as Africans were drawn by the Europeans. So they made our life harder. But as for them, their lives are rather easy, I can say, when it comes to moving from, because what Pan-Africanism is trying to fight for is a borderless Africa, is a rather permeable borders within the African state. So we can move from one country to another and do business and coexist and live together. Because these borders that exist in Africa today were drawn by the Europeans, and they never did any justice to Africa, I can say. For example, today in many countries in Africa, we have ethnicities and communities being minorities. And you'll be surprised to find that, for example, here in Kenya, we have a community, an ethnic community, for example, that is being termed as a minority and that lives at a certain part of the country in Kenya. And then, but when you actually observe this community is not a minority in terms of the population. But actually, what happened is you'll find that this community is living just by the border of maybe Kenya and a neighboring country. And the majority of this community happen to be in the neighboring country. And now they have a minority that's getting less privileges or something, that is being termed as a minority in this other country. Because the Europeans, when they came in their greed and scramble for Africa, did not bother to care about the communities and the well-being and just that cohesion and the togetherness of the people of Africa. They drew borders across communities. They separated people. They separated families. And today we have people having one family living on this other side of the border and have family on the other side. And it's hard for them to move across the borders that were drawn by the Europeans. And I don't think that is a good idea. I don't think that is doing any justice to Africa. And so we must check into this. Now, something else that was, for me, was rather amusing is when Phil Craig was being interviewed by this journalist, news anchor rather, and he said something that caught my attention. So let's listen to this, and then I'll see what is I felt is not right, or I didn't understand rather, or we can have a discussion on what that probably meant. So here is it. Here's the video.
Are going to win, and look, we're a long way down the road. We've already made mayhem politically here, and we're only just getting started. So yeah, I believe we're going to do this. Absolutely.
Well, I have to say, absolute pleasure to talk to you. I'm going to watch this with very great interest, because I think if you succeeded, you might find a lot of us might want to come and live there. So I wish you well in your endeavours, and thank you very much indeed for joining me this evening.
So that if he succeeded, if Phil Craig succeeds to with his agenda of dividing South Africa, then you might find a lot of us, a lot of them, coming to live here. What does that mean? I might have not understood what he meant, but that didn't sit right with me, because so right now he can't settle because South Africa is together, or because Western Cape province is still part of South Africa, and because Phil Craig is trying to insinuate that the Western Cape is a white people's, majority part of South Africa, which is not even actually the truth statistically. But why does the news anchor say that a lot of them might now end up going to, consider staying there? Because right now it's part of South Africa, or whatever. It's not conducive to settle there. I think there's something to that. I don't know what he meant, but from my understanding is there's something that he's trying to insinuate. And this just paints another clear picture in my mind that Phil Craig is a British national, despite his South African citizenship that he just acquired the other day. He's been there for only 20 years or so, and now he thinks he's, he's entitled to come and divide Africa. Now it's not time to divide Africa. It's time to bring Africa together. I think most of us as Africans would agree with him on the ground that he's trying to unite South Africa with the neighboring countries to do business together for the betterment of the entire of Africa. But creating more borders here for God knows whatever reason, because the Cape Province is strategically a very, very crucial place in South Africa. I don't know, but that is what I have to had to share in this video. I would like to get the reaction of you guys in the comment section. I would like to, get the views maybe of South Africans on this issue, what they think about it, and yeah. So guys, we have come to the end of this video, and please like this video, consider giving it a subscription, and please share this video so we can have as much interaction as we can. So until next time, peace.